Session 13, Plugging the Gaps and Creating Intellectual Property. Last week, in the session 12, we figured out putting it all together and the faculty note. This program is for enhancing executive ability and decision-making skills with in-company case studies. This teaches you how to write in-company case studies and takes you in a step-by-step manner through this whole activity. The end result of this activity is creating intellectual property that is of value to your organization, is relevant to your organization, and imbibes the culture of your organization. This is being brought to you by METL Global Perspectives, www.metl.in. Reviewing the case. With the case written and the faculty note in place, it's now time to get the case reviewed by the protagonist and external entities. The protagonist signs off on the technicalities and authenticates the details in the case. I must point out that before this also the protagonist has seen and been through the case at various stages, but this is where the sign-off actually takes place. The external entities, they review the case for completeness and learning values. So these are typically the people who actually are going to go through the case, the readers, and representative from that particular audience profile. They judge it based on the content in the case and the ability to respond to the dilemma based on the information provided. As a case writer, you would have gone through multiple times over to the case and would have figured out every aspect of it. While you have done it, this is the external bit of it, which is very important so that you know what others perceive of it. Be open to the feedback that you get at this stage, even though you might have certain things incorporated in the case perhaps a little later, but the audience feels that it should have come here and it would have made the readability better, or they have missed that particular data point which is already there. Then you need to just look at it as to why have they missed, and this is the kind of review process that you're going through at this stage. 10 aspects for review. Once these reviews are completed, the inputs are provided to the case writer and the final version of the case is then ready. In case there are gaps to be plugged, the same has to be carried out. The gaps at this stage can be on any of these 10 aspects: concept and fact, process and procedure, principle and structure, people and strategy, execution and flow. Again, I must remind you that since you have been writing the case and have been through it multiple times, multiple people have been interviewed, you would not get any significant deviations at this point. However, this is the first time when an external entity is reviewing the case. So the perspectives and the thoughts that are put forth by the external entity, it's very important to understand it and respond to it. The idea is not to safeguard the case. The idea is to strengthen the case, because ultimately the case will be used by some other faculty who will go through the faculty note and will be running it. So as a case writer, this is one of the final touches that you need to put to your case and go through it with a very open mind. Concept and fact. Concept, the various words, phrases, and constructs that have been defined and understood the way they should be. These are called concepts because they are defined in a particular manner and used in a particular manner in a situation or an industry. For instance, a telecom industry specific case will have a lot of terminologies like GSM, 4G, 5G, network equipment, switching, call drop, ARPU, LTE, towers. A glossary at the end provides for the common understanding by everyone. Every concept should be defined properly and elaborated so that an individual has a common understanding. It is not a dictionary. It is basically what that element means. Though in in-company cases, these are commonly understood by all, it is still important to define them adequately. Fact. The various facts that are stated, have they been compared to give a comprehensive picture? For instance, a year's revenue or profit data makes little sense. One might say that profit is 30%. It still makes little sense if it is not compared with the previous years or with other similar companies in the industry. So, therefore, every fact has to be elaborated and understood, compared, so that the audience gets an idea of what this is all about. Process and procedure. Process, the details of the processes that are turning the input to the output. In between the input, which is the raw materials and the consumables, after that, some processing of those inputs happens, as in reactions or digestion or transformation happens, and then it comes to the output. The crucial resources that are used at various stages and the embedded competitive advantage has to be detailed. For instance, the ability to control the processes and manufacture molecules with complex chemistry with very less spoilage when compared to the industry standard. This is something unique for an organization, and if it is, then that should be explained in a manner so that there is the complexity and the understanding is developed, because that becomes then the competitive advantage of the organization. Procedure, the sequence of events that need to be carried out to provide the desired outcome. For instance, the Toyota production system is a very structured and well documented approach that any manufacturer can use to create a world-class manufacturing organization. However, even though the procedure has been stated out, implementing them is not so easy, because there are cultural nuances and various other aspects, and a promise to quality and a promise to the customer which comes first. So several other intertwined aspects become relevant, even though the procedure is fairly known and commonly understood. Principle and structure. Principle, the essential norms that have to be followed. For instance, the safety regulations and the mandatory checks as per the industrial acts. Rules to ensure that no authorized workman enters the factory. Within the premises, there are zone rules that restrict interzone movements too. So these principles are to be adhered to. They are like the danger kind of things or must adhere to kind of things. These are there to safeguard people and equipment from untoward incidents. Structure, the formal and informal chain of command in place and followed to get work done. For instance, the formal chain of command might necessitate a particular approach to get approvals, while the work exigency might need violation of the same thing or bypassing the same and giving rise to a particular case situation and case conditions therefore. In a very professional organization, the informal and the formal structure are one and the same, whereas they might be very different when it comes to a not so professional organization. Also, while there is a structure to do the workflow, there is also a structure through which the information flows. So information flow structure and the workflow structure should be similar or same. It should not be that information is flowing differently than the workflow. People and strategy. People, the various role holders who are relevant to the case, their expertise, perspectives, and readiness for the task at hand. This can be at an operational level, managerial level, or at a leadership level. Why are these people at that point, at that particular place and position? And that actually is a significant part of the case. Maybe why the situation happened, or maybe how the situation got resolved, both of them. For instance, an incident that resulted due to incorrect technical understanding and bypassing of several protocols just because the operator wanted to get work done quickly to catch a flight. Strategy, the way the instance in the case connects with the overall strategy of the firm. For instance, an innovator chemical products organization enters the mass-produced segment to drive more revenues, but overall that reduced profitability and led the firm on a path that needed a brutal turnaround to correct it. Now this becomes a brilliant case when you start writing at it as to why did they go this way and why did they have to go the other way and back to the way they were as an innovator organization. So every of these aspects are so unique and so fundamental, and they give rise to wonderful case scenarios and for learners to understand and to carry the thought forth. Execution and flow. Execution, the approach used to execute a particular strategic objective and how it panned out. For instance, the need to deliver a large order before time to secure bonus, the manufacturing team reduced the cooling time of the chemical used as adhesive. They actually reduced it from 12 hours to 4 hours. And instead of just normal cooling by the air conditions, they actually induced forced draft cooling by putting big blowers in front of the machine. When the same machine was operating under site conditions, after 2 years the adhesive gave away and it caused an accident that in turn levied heavy penalty on the organization. The warranty was supposed to cover for over 4 years, and this kind of a defect never actually happened before that. This case would investigate the same in depth as to what really happened when you reduced from a longer cooling cycle to a shorter cooling cycle with forced draft, and how the chemical composition of the adhesive changed with that. Flow, the overall flow of the case, and whether the sequence of events was smoothly flowing into one another or it needed to be changed. The role of the English editor, I'll come to it a little later, is very crucial at this stage as they look at the case from the reader's perspective. English edit. Once you have got all this feedback and the gaps have been plugged in, the case before release has to be sent for English edit. Editing is not about spelling and grammar. It is also about the flow of the case and the readability. English editors add a lot of value because they actually hash the case differently at times. At this stage too, be ready to expect a lot of changes, as the editors focus on the readability aspect and work on the case from an entirely different perspective. This is a very crucial step and adds a lot of value to the case writer and the reader. A lot of people give very less time for the English edits to be done. They might ask the editors to turn around in just perhaps 4 hours or a day. It doesn't happen that way. These cases are complex cases. The editor first has to read them, understand them, and then go through with a fine tooth and comb on every word that is written. It is not about putting a but or a for or an and an if here and there. It is about making it much more readable. They actually do a marvelous job on the readability of your case, and it is so essential to have this step before the case is finally off the table. Final version. Once the comments of the protagonist, external reviewer, and the editor are incorporated, the case is ready to be given to the readers, the intended audience. It's possible that there are some small little comments that still come, but that can be addressed at that time, or perhaps once the case has gone through over 100 different reads from different audience, then you can refer to it once more. In case there are a few comments that come after the case has been used for a few times, the case writer should incorporate them and the final version is then ready. Yes, you might be feeling that the case just is a never-ending thing, but yes, it is where you are creating so much of value for the organization. A work which has been carried out over years is being captured in a few pages. So therefore, it needs to be given that kind of time so that the essence of it is covered, the right value is provided, the people are brought out, and no real significant detail is missed. Making it intellectual property. Most organizations and their learning departments do not create vital knowledge assets as intellectual property. This leads them to tracking training days and such elements as crucial numbers rather than knowledge created, disseminated, impact created. A case is a valuable intellectual property, and over time, the organization, by capturing knowledge, practice, and processes and the entire evolution, has a lot of things there. The final version then can be uploaded on the organization's knowledge portal and the intellectual property for the same registered with a competent authority. An elaborate case being written by an experienced case writer normally requires 5 iterations before it gets finalized. Remember that once you turn your learning department into a knowledge hub and a knowledge center, the metrics change totally. It is no more about the number of training days. It is about the knowledge assets created, the knowledge assets disseminated, the impact on the ground created. So the numbers change totally. And this is what should be the numbers in any case. Cases go a long way to make it happen, and they add significant learning value. Questions. In the case that you're writing, who all will you consider for reviewing the case? What are the review issues that came up? Who will carry out the English edits? How many such case studies you have as IP with your organization? In my view, every year an organization must add at least 5 to 7 cases to the repository. If they are not doing this, then they are losing out on vital knowledge. Find out those individuals who have got very good experience and are retiring. You should be having a case with them, at least 2 or 3 of them. Find out those award-winning practices in the organization, and they should be converted into cases. Message me your queries and I'll try to revert as soon as I can. You can reach me at saugata@metl.in. The next week, we'll do session 14, using in-company cases in leadership development programs. Till then, happy case writing and enjoy your day.